Hello, guys. Welcome, everyone. It is Anastasia from Scholar here with you guys, and today we will be going over the 2023 Selective Schools Test and specifically the Thinking Skills paper. So, we've got 40 questions here to do today. We're going to get through all of them, and let's get right into it. Let's get started. Let us know, of course, if you find this useful. Let's do it. Let's get started. Question number 1 is over here. In a computer game, players are awarded coins for each puzzle that they solve. The coins can be used to buy objects within the game. The prizes of objects range from 50 coins to 150 coins. Players can earn 10 coins for each easy puzzle that they solve and 15 coins for each difficult puzzle that they solve. Okay, so 10 coins, easy, or 15 coins for difficult. Let's keep going. There are 3 objects that Jody would like to buy with the cost of each of them. So here's the thing, right? It tells us that you can get stuff that costs 50 to 150, but the only prices we care about are these 3, okay? So this information here is just to distract you. It's actually not really relevant to the question. And you'll see this a lot in thinking skills question. You'll see information that actually is completely irrelevant. They just give to you to try to distract you. Now, let's keep going. What are we up to? This bit here. Jody currently has 35 coins. What is the smallest number of puzzles that Jody will need to solve to be able to buy all 3 objects? Now, first of all, we have to understand what the question is actually asking for. Smallest number of puzzles. That means we want to do the type of puzzle that gives us the most coins, right? In other words, what type of puzzle are we going to solve? Are we going to try and look at easy puzzles that only give us 10 coins or difficult puzzles that give us 15 coins? You guessed it, we're going to be looking for difficult puzzles. So we are going to do the difficult puzzles. Why? Because they give you more points per puzzle. So if you get more points for each puzzle, you actually have to do less puzzles overall. Alrighty. Let's actually figure out how many points we need to actually get. How many coins do we need? Well, we need 60 here, 80 here, and 90 here. So altogether, how much is that going to be? That should be 230 coins. That is how many we need altogether. But we already have 35 coins. So how many more coins do we need? We need the total minus what we already have, which is 195 coins. So we need to somehow get 195 coins. How many difficult puzzles do I need to solve to get 195 coins? Easy, right? It says over here, again, 15 coins for every difficult puzzle. So I'm going to take this number, I'm going to divide it by 15, and that will tell me how many difficult puzzles I need to solve, right? So this is going to go in once, and this is going to go in 3 times. So my answer is 13 is the smallest number of puzzles. Again, that is the smallest number because we're choosing the difficult puzzles, and each difficult puzzle is worth more coins. Beautiful. Question number 1 done. Let's keep it going. Okay, 5 people are sitting in a line. Alrighty, for these types of questions, as soon as I see something like this, I'm thinking to myself, I should draw some sort of diagram. They don't have to be artistic, they don't have to be anything crazy, just something to really help you organize the information. Alrighty, so Gerard is sitting immediately to the left of Ali. Okay, so I'm going to have Gerard and then Ali. Daniel is sitting immediately to the right of Nola. So I'm going to have Nola, then Daniel right away. Then Jessica is sitting next to Daniel. Well, there's only 2 spots next to Daniel, either on his left or on his right. The spot on his left is already taken, which means where is Jessica going to go? Over here. And that's why I wrote J-A and J-E, because they're both J names. Alrighty. Next bit. Gerard is sitting on the end of the line. So let's think about it. Either Gerard goes here or he goes here. But remember that Ali has to be on the other side, specifically on the right-hand side, which means Gerard can't go here. Gerard must be here, and then that puts Ali next to him on his right. Beautiful. And then the other 3 spots, we're just going to fill them in like this. So who is in the middle? In the middle, we can see that is Noah. And that, of course, gives us option C. Very nice. Alrighty, next up. Anyone who helped Mr. Bamblet with the school garden last week will be given a ticket to the country fair at the weekend. Now, we've got two people and we have to actually check whose reasoning is correct according to the box. Remember, guys, that your number one rule of thinking skills is no assumptions. That means no guesses, nothing. You can't actually assume anything unless it has been specifically stated in the question. Okay? All I know from this question is that if you actually helped Mr. Bamblet with the school garden, you'll be given a ticket. However, there could still be other ways of getting a ticket. We don't know the other ways. All we know is that this is one possible way to guarantee yourself a ticket. So let's have a look at now each person's statement. Catherine says, that's great. I helped Mr. Bamblet last Thursday. Okay, so that's obviously part of last week. So I'll definitely get a ticket. Is that true? Absolutely. If you helped last week, you will be given a ticket. That is guaranteed. So Catherine's statement looks good to me. Kylie. Fran told me that she is going to the country fair. She must have helped out too. Now there's a problem with this reasoning. What's the problem here? We don't actually know how Fran got the ticket. For example, she could have bought it herself. For example, I don't know, her parents could have gotten it. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because she has a ticket that she got it because she helped Mr. Bamblet. Remember, in general, guys, if you have been given an implication in a question that says A gives you B, okay, so some statement implies something else, you cannot just say that the opposite works. You can't just go backwards and say that B gives you A, unless the question tells you that. In this case, the question doesn't give me any information about the reverse, about if you've gone to the country fair this weekend. If you've got a ticket to the country fair, it must be because of this reason. We don't know that. And that's why Kylie's statement here does not work. Which means, what is our correct answer going to be? It's going to have to be option A. Only Catherine's statement here has correct reasoning. Beautiful. Alrighty, let's keep it going. Here's a slightly longer question. Harlow bought some items from the shop yesterday, and here is her receipt. A chocolate bar, lemonade, lollies, and milk. Nice, lots of stuff. Now, Madison bought the same items from the shop as well yesterday, but in different quantities. Unfortunately, half of her receipt was missing, so she could not see the names. So basically, this part of the receipt that has the names of stuff, for some reason, is missing. Now, the part of the receipt that she still has is this. And the question specifically asks us, how many lollies did Madison buy? Okay, so be very, very, very careful with a question like this, guys. Remember that in this thinking skills test, you only have a minute per mark. 40 questions, 40 minutes, right? Some questions will take a little bit longer. They might take you like a minute and 20 seconds. You need to make sure that you can do the fast questions like this, really, really, really quickly to ensure that you have a little bit more time to spend on the slightly trickier questions, okay? So do not waste your time doing steps that you don't actually need to be doing. What I'm checking for in this question is lollies. I'm not going to go through and check every single quantity and see what it has changed to. I'm only specifically going to look for lollies. And you might be thinking, okay, how are we going to do that? Well, if we look at the original receipt, Harlow's receipt, 2 lollies cost $1.60. So I can say from here that 1 lolly is going to cost 80 cents. I'm just going to halve it. Or I can say if I double it that 4 lollies cost $3.20. Is there any of these quantities in this receipt? Beautiful. Right there. $3.20 over there has 4 of something, and that definitely has to match the lollies. So how many lollies? Boom. My answer is immediately 4. So if you do it like this, if you actually just go up to the original receipt and check lollies specifically, this is going to take you like 10 seconds, not even, right? So the point here is you don't have to check every quantity. Only check the information that is relevant to what the question is asking for. This is completely irrelevant, this is completely irrelevant, and this is completely irrelevant. And they'll do this a lot, guys. As I said, they're going to give you random information that you don't actually need in a question, okay? Alrighty, next up. A scientist attached tracking devices to 4 sea turtles to monitor their annual return to a beach. Each of the turtles has a 3-letter code name. Alrighty. Now, Blue, the youngest of the turtles, arrived before the oldest. Once again, we'll draw a little diagram as we go along. Okay? So, I know that I'm going to put over here the earliest, and I'm going to put over here the latest. Okay, so Blue is before lil. Okay, we don't actually know if anyone's between them yet. We'll keep going, we'll see. Next, the turtle known as Eve arrived just before the youngest. Who's the youngest? Blue. So Eve must be just before Blue. Beautiful. And half an hour ahead of the oldest turtle. Who's the oldest? Lil. So this difference over here is a 30-minute difference. Now, the turtle known as True arrived a few minutes after Blue. Okay, what does that actually mean? Compare this, right? We know that Eve was just before the youngest turtle. So this is a very, very, very tiny difference in time. Small, very, very, very small difference in time because it says just before, which means this here has to be a good chunk of the 30 minutes. If True just came a few minutes after Blue, that means True has to be before Lil because it has to be a close to 30-minute gap over here. It's not going to be exactly 30 minutes because this is going to have some time to it, but it has to be the majority of that 30-minute gap, which means True has to be inside that gap, within that gap, and that's why we get True coming here in the order. Now, the question says, which turtle arrived second? Second, as we can see, has to be Blue, and that means option A is my correct answer. There you go. Good work. Alrighty, next question. Let me move this up a bit so it's not bothering us with the next question. Now, as soon as you see a question like this, as soon as I can see the word over here, weakens in bold, I know that obviously I am tackling a strengthening, weakening question. Very, very, very classic. You will see this a lot in the selective test. And there is a very, very, very nice, simple strategy to help you deal with questions like this, right? Here's the two things you do. You find your conclusion and you find the reason of the text. You don't actually need to write this. I usually tend to highlight it. It's really up to you how you indicate it to yourself in your head. But basically, you're looking for the conclusion and you're looking for the reason of the text. Why are you doing this? I'm actually pick different colors so you can see this a bit better. So why are we doing this? The reason is because if you're trying to weaken the argument, specifically what we're looking for is the best statement that weakens. A lot of the time you'll see multiple statements that weaken, but to pick the best one, you have to check what not only goes against the conclusion, but what also directly contradicts the reasons that were specifically given in that paragraph. If you're picking something that weakens because of random reasons, that's probably not the best answer. Okay, so let's now try using that. Let's have a look. Let's read. Funny pet videos are viewed hundreds of thousands of times a day around the world. Many people clearly enjoy watching cats leap away from cucumbers in terror or dogs falling off the backs of couches. But these videos are harmful and should be made illegal. So immediately, even though I haven't finished reading, I can tell that this is my conclusion. As soon as you see a text saying this should happen or that should happen, it's making a recommendation to you, which means that is the conclusion that it's making. Now, forcing pets to perform can be stressful and frightening for them. There you go. That's one reason why it says this should be illegal. Furthermore, the desire of their owners to achieve ever greater numbers of views creates a motive to film more and more extreme videos. And again, another reason, as you can see here pretty clearly. Yes. Now, as I said, we want to weaken. We want to break the conclusion. We want to break the reason. If the question said strengthen, then we're trying to support the conclusion, support the reason. So let's read through all of these answer options. A, many pet videos feature funny things that were caught on camera by chance. Okay, this is looking perfect. Why? Because it directly contradicts the reasons in the text. What do I mean by this? First of all, if it is accidentally caught on camera by chance, that means number one, there is no forcing your pet to perform. Number two, there is no desire to achieve all these views and to make your pets do extreme videos. So, okay, it's not forced. There's no desire. That means that it actually isn't harmful because it breaks both of the reasons that were given in the text. This is looking pretty fantastic. All right, let's take the rest just to be extra short. B, trying to be popular on the internet can be bad for people's mental health. How is this relevant? This is talking about people's mental health. This whole text is talking about the effect on pets, how it's actually harmful for pets. So what does people's mental health have to do with this topic in the first place? Completely irrelevant to the argument, and that is why this needs to go. Next, many countries have strict rules governing the treatment of working animals. Okay, first of all, this is talking about working animals, right? From what we're seeing in this text is saying this is about funny pet videos. In other words, about pets, right? Not necessarily working animals. That's the very first part that obviously is a problem, okay? Second of all, whether governments have strict rules or not has nothing to do with the reasons that were given in the text. Completely irrelevant, again, to number one, forcing pets to do something and the desire of owners to get views. Whether they're actually illegal in different countries has nothing to do with the reasons that was given over here, which means for both of those comments there, we cannot choose option C. And let's check the last one as well, option D. The use of performing animals in circuses. Okay, what? I don't know what you guys think, but circuses, again, completely random here, never mentioned in the original text, so this also needs to go. We're not going to choose this. Beautiful. So once again, we end up with option A for question number 6. Nice. Alrighty, let's keep it going. Here's our next one, and that is question number 7. 8 competitors took part in a series of 6 challenges. The table below details the results of the challenges. Who was the only competitor who was ranked in a different position at each of the 6 challenges? Alrighty, so in this case, basically what we're looking for is any person's name repeated twice in the same rank? So for example, you can see Luke here has been repeated twice, okay? If we keep going further down, I can see Evie here has been repeated twice. So Evie, definitely not going to work. We can keep checking. Any repetitions here? Zara has been repeated here. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep checking. Adam here has been repeated. No other repetitions in that column, in that row, sorry. Let's keep going. I can see Jade here has been repeated. So this is not going to work either. If we keep going down, no other repetitions here. And Beth has been repeated here, but she's not in the answer option, so we don't really care, right? And so really, I can see Dawn as well in this last row, which means Dawn is gone, and my answer is Theo. Option D is therefore my correct answer. Beautiful. There you go. Okay. So, oops, and again, I realized maybe I shouldn't use this pink because I think you guys can't see it very well. But yes, I was highlighting Evie. Beautiful. So, as I said, really the idea here is that we're checking row by row, and we're checking, are there any repeats? Okay. Another way you can do it if you'd like, but it really just takes about the same amount of time for both of these, is you can just go through and check the names of each person that was given in the answer options and go from there. That also works out, alrighty? But as I said, it really just takes the same amount of time. With these, because there's a lot of random information given to you that is irrelevant, again, so many names in here, so much to deal with, it can typically be easier to use elimination, because unless you're really, really lucky, it is quite difficult to sort through these names very, very, very quickly. So I would go with elimination for something like this. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Beautiful. Next up is question number 8. Zoe is going to a party this weekend, and most of the children in her class will be going. Alrighty, so again, let's actually realize what we know so far. What does this mean? Okay, let's say that Zoe's class has 30 people. This is just an example. I don't actually know if it has 30 people, but we're just going to take the class as 30 for an example. Then, if most of her class is going, then maybe let's say, okay, 28 from the class are going. And again, these are just numbers to illustrate it. I don't actually know if these are the real numbers. I'm just illustrating a point here. Now, remember, most of the class is going. However, the party could have any number of people. The party could only have 28 people, so the only people there are in the class. Or the party could have 2,000 people. And so 28 out of 2,000 is a very, very, very small percentage, right? That's another way that this could occur. So we don't actually know what proportion or what percentage the people from Zoe's class make up of the total number of people that attended the party, okay? Most of the class is going, but we don't know if most of the class equals most of the party. That is a very, very, very important distinction to make over here. So as I said, these numbers are completely made up, but hope that makes my point clear. So let's now have a look at the question. Zoe says, I know most of the people at the party because they're in my class. She's making an assumption. She is breaking the number 1 rule of thinking skills. She's saying, oh, because most of my class is going, the party must be mostly made of my class, which again, isn't necessarily true. So let's go through these answer options. What do we think the problem here is? Well, now that we've already sort of gone over it, we can clearly see that it's going to be D. A large number of people might have been invited to the party. The bigger you make this number, the smaller this percentage becomes, and that is no longer a majority, that is no longer the most. Let's check the answer options and see why they don't work, the rest of them. So A says, Zoe might know some of the people at the party who are not in the class. Sure, but that doesn't actually have to do with her reasoning. That could make sense in real life, but she says, because they are in my class. Option A, again, makes perfect sense in real life, doesn't actually match Zoe's statement though. And that's why it doesn't work. And again, this is going to come up a lot in thinking skills, where they give you guys a question or an answer option that is perfectly true, perfectly normal in real life. But unless you see it match the text, it is not the one you go for. Okay? So that's why option A here, we're not going to choose that. Next. Most of the people in the class are going to the party because they know each other. Again, we don't know why they're going. We just know that most of the children in the class are going. We have no idea why they're going. There has been no reason stated as to why they're going, so this is another assumption that we cannot confirm. Next, Zoe might spend her time at the party getting to know new people. Again, this could make sense with the first part of the statement, but it has nothing to do with the next bit. The next bit says, I know them because they're in my class. This contradicts that statement. Again, pretty much the same issue here as option A. And that is why option D is your best possible answer. Beautiful. Alrighty, next up. Asha, Drasti, Jason, and Jenny were all born in the same year, but in different months. Okay, same year, different months. Asha is older than Jason and younger than Jenny. Drasti is younger than Jason. Okay, let's first of all organize this information. So, Asha, older than Jason. So, Asha has to be above Jason in this list of age, and younger than Jenny. So, Jenny has to be up here. And Drasti is younger than Jason, so Drasti has to go down here. Now, we need all of these people to be born in the same year. And I've ordered them here from the oldest to the youngest. What is not going to work? Let's check. It says which of the following cannot be true. Read very carefully. We're looking for the one that is wrong. So, option A, Asha was born in October. Does that work? Well, if Asha's born in October, Jenny could be in September of the same year. Okay? Jason could be in November, and Drasti could be in December. That definitely works. That actually is perfectly fine. No issue. Drasti was born in December. Exact same scenario. Now, let's have a look at the next bit. Jason was born in September. Let's check. So if Jason is in September, Drasti's in October or November or December, right? Or November or December. Could be any of those. And again, we can definitely go back and fit everyone else in 1 year. Before September, for example, we could go to August, we could go to July, and so on and so forth. They could be other months, but there's plenty of space for them, is what we're saying. That works. Now, Jenny was born in November. Here's the problem. If Jenny's in November, Asha has to be in December, then these people, they're going to be born in the next year. And that's a problem, because we need them to be born in the same year. They can't be in the same month, which means if I go another month, that puts me onto a new year, and that's where I have some issues. So question 9, we definitely have to go with option D there. Beautiful. Alrighty. Question number 10, let's have a look at this. A pencil holder is shown below. Which of the following shows a side view of the pencil holder? Okay, well, let's try out a couple different side views. Let's, for example, test it out this way. I can see I'm looking for a piece like this, a piece like this, a piece like this. I'm pretty much only looking at the shiny bits. And from this, if you can actually imagine turning yourself around and having a look at this portion specifically, all I'll be able to see is this top bit that isn't actually blocked by this darker colored gray bit, okay? So I'm basically looking for something that has shapes like that. I'm looking for two sort of trapeziums like this, and then these two shapes, which as you can see is option B perfectly. So that immediately gives you the answer there. Very, very, very nice. Good work. Alrighty, let's keep it going. Next up is question number 11. So, you can only go on the ride at the theme park if you are at least 12 years old or you are with an adult. Okay, this is a very, very, very important thing to know in general. Or means you need one thing, or I'll rephrase it a little bit. You need one of the two things, but not both. You can have both, but you don't need both. And means you must have both. So, if I say, for example, to get into selective, you must have a good maths score and thinking skills score. That means you need both of those things. If I said to get into selective, you need a good math score or a good thinking skills score, that only means you need one of those things. You can have both, but you only need one, okay? So in the case of this question, all we need is that this person is at least 12 years old or they are with an adult. We don't need both. Now, Robbie says, Binti just went on the ride with her father, so she must be less than 12 years old. That is not necessarily true. Why not? Okay? As I said, you don't need both, but you can have both. So, you don't need to be 12 and go with an adult. But just because you went with an adult, that does not mean that you're automatically less than 12 years old. There is nothing in the question that says that I can make that implication. I don't need both, but I could have both. She could be over 12 and go with her father. So I can't assume that. Robbie's statement does not make sense here. Now, the next statement. But Nicole was on her own on the ride, so she must be at least 12 years old. That is absolutely true, because as soon as you're actually missing one of the criteria, as soon as you don't have the adult thing, you've got to have the other one being true. You need one of the two things, which means this definitely makes sense, and therefore option B is your correct answer. And there you go. That's that question done as well. We're doing really well. Let's keep it going. Question number 12. The captain has decided to choose a team of 4 people for this weekend's match. There are only 5 of the possible players available this weekend, and the captain needs to make sure that the team satisfies the following rules. Alrighty. So, Terrence, Lachlan, and Neville cannot all be on the team. At least one of them must be on it. Okay, so from this group of 3, you're going to have either one of them on it or 2 of them on it. You can't have 0 of them on it because it says at least 1 is needed. And you can't have all 3 of them on it because it says all 3 cannot all be on a team. So either 1 or 2 of them. Next, Lachlan and Cecil cannot both be on the team. So you're going to pick one of them. Prash can only be on the team if Cecil is. Now the problem is I only have 5 people and I have to choose 4 of them. If I don't choose Prash, okay, then Cecil isn't going to go too. I'm going to lose 2 people. That means I'm only going to have 3 total. So I must have to choose Prash, okay? So Prash is definitely on the team. Has to be on the team. Next, Cecil has to be on the team as well because Prash is only going to be on the team if Cecil is. And what do we know about Cecil? Cecil and Lachlan cannot both be on the team, which means Lachlan is gone. Okay, what does that mean about the others? Lachlan is gone from here. I can still have both Terrence and Neville on the team. That gives me a team of 4 people. That is not a problem. So who is the person that we've crossed out? That's going to be Lachlan, and that is therefore option D. Nice. Good work. Alrighty, let's keep it up. Here's question number 13. 5 friends, Annie, Bailey, Carly, Dom, and Ella, have started collecting old coins. And we've basically just got a bunch of information here about the relationship between the number of coins each person has compared to their friend, right? Now, altogether, the 5 friends have a total of 26 coins. Which of the following has 4 coins? Basically, we're going to test out different pieces of information to check whether we can actually have this possibility to give us a total of 26. Now, we have to be very, very clever with our guesses. What do I mean by this? I can see over here, this is a very important piece of information, and so is this. Carly has twice the number as Bailey. Dom has twice as many as Ella, okay? I know in reality I cannot have half a coin. That is nonsense, right? How do you have half a coin? Doesn't work. So I need to make sure that whatever number I choose over here and whatever number I choose over here is an even number. Why? Why does this have to be even? Because then if I divide by 2 to get Bailey's amount or Ella's amount, I get a whole number. All even numbers, and divide them by 2, you get a whole number. Whereas if I have 7 for example, and I divide by 2, I'm going to get 3.5. I can't have 3.5 coins. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the problem. Which means over here, I must have Carly and Dom have an even number. I also can see that Dom has one more coin than Annie. So if this number is even, that means Annie must have an odd number. Because remember, all your numbers, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 blah. Odd, even, odd, even, odd, even. And the pattern just keeps continuing. Okay? So Annie's number must be odd. Alrighty. Which means, from knowing this information, who can have 4 coins? Okay? Immediately, it can't be Annie. Straight away. I don't even have to test it out. As soon as I've read the information, I know it can't be Annie because she's going to have an odd number of coins. And again, this is something I have to write down. This is something you can think of in your head. Beautiful. So let's now test the rest of these pieces of information. Bailey. Let's check Bailey, for example. We're going to test. If Bailey has 4 coins, then Callie has twice as much, so that's 8. Bailey has one more than Ella, so Ella must have 3 coins. Next, Ella has 3, Dom has twice as much, that's 6. Dom has 6, that means Annie is going to have 5. Okay, now let's test out the numbers. Do they work? Okay, so Annie has 5. Bailey over here has 4. Then Callie has 8. Dom has 6. And Ella has 3. Let's test it out. 9 plus 8 plus 9, that is 18 plus 8, that is 26 indeed. Boom. Option B is your correct answer. I don't really think it's worth trying to use algebra for a question like this. It's going to take way too long. Really, really, really annoying. So I think if you can make a clever guess like this to actually make sure that you're not testing a piece of information that you don't need to be testing, that can make it quite quick to do as well. Beautiful. Good work. Next. Alrighty, immediately, this is another strengthening, weakening question. So I think you guys already know what I'm going to say. We're going to use our same strategy as before. We're going to look for the conclusion and we are going to look for the reason. Exact same strategy. Let's try it out. Conclusion and reason. Okay, let's read it up. So, Becca helps her grandfather take care of the flowers he's planted in his garden. She showed him an app on her phone that identifies a plant simply by taking a photo of it. Her grandfather said, "That won't help you be a good gardener." That's his conclusion. Why? A gardener needs to be able to know, without always relying on someone or something else, what kind of plant it is that they're looking at. So once again, we're trying to weaken the argument. What does that mean? We're trying to make it less likely to be true. Less likely to be true. So let's go through these answer options. What's the best answer option? Well, A says, there are many different kinds of plants available to gardeners in most places. Okay, this is completely irrelevant once again. What does the fact that there's many different types of plants have to do with knowing a plant without relying on someone or something else? That is the reason that I'm trying to weaken. So this, I don't know what it's talking about, but it's not relevant at all. Next, option B. The app does not always correctly identify the plant being photographed. Okay, well here's the problem. This actually supports the argument. It says, actually, the app isn't very good, so you shouldn't rely on the app. Here's more reasons why you shouldn't rely on the app. I don't want to support the argument. I'm trying to weaken the argument. I'm trying to go against it. So that is not what I'm going for. This strengthens. Next up, people are able to appreciate the beauty of plants without knowing what kind they are. Once again, this is talking about the beauty of plants. This is completely irrelevant. This whole paragraph is not about the beauty of plants. It's about gardening. And specifically, the reason is about gardening without relying on someone or something else. So what does the beauty of plants have to do with it? Completely random, not going to work. Which means that leaves me with option D. And let's check option D. Experienced gardeners often use books to help them identify plants. There is the problem. It's saying that experienced gardeners, people that have been doing this for years, actually use books, which means they rely on something else. Okay? They rely on something else. If people that are experienced, that are good gardeners, are able to rely on something else, that completely breaks the whole reasoning that was given by Becca's grandfather. There you go. Option D is your best answer here. Nice. Let's keep it going. Question number 15. The ukulele is a musical instrument from Hawaii. It looks a bit like a small guitar. Nice. Again, completely irrelevant information here, but it's just giving you a bit of context. It's good to know. Now, more and more schools have selected this instrument for their younger children because it's easy to play. This means they can quickly start to play music together. Actively listening and working with others helps them learn to interact with each other better. Okay, so it's basically teaching them teamwork. It's teaching them to actually get along better together. Now let's go through the different pieces of information. Ray, if they gave Tony's class ukulele lessons for a term, they would probably get along with each other better. Does this make sense? It says in the text that this helps kids interact with each other better, which is exactly what Ray is saying. So this looks like a pretty positive statement. Looks pretty normal. What about Juan Pablo's statement? Juan Pablo says, but it's not possible to give ukulele lessons to the whole class. And that means some of them will never learn to get along. Wait a second. Where did this information come from? Did you guys see this in the text? Because I didn't. The text does not say that it is not possible to give these lessons to the whole class. I don't know where that came from. Certainly not from the text. Unless the text says it is not possible to give these lessons to the whole class, we cannot assume it. Juan Pablo is making an assumption here, and therefore we do not agree with his reasoning. Which means, what is the correct answer? Option A. There you go. Question number 16. Classic dice question. So, Sonny has 5 dominoes, and 2 of the dominoes are shown below. Now, he joins his dominoes end to end so that the 2 numbers on touching faces of adjacent dominoes are the same. So what does that mean? As you can see in this diagram that they've given us, here is one domino, here is another domino, and here is another domino, and here, I'm not doing a very good job of drawing this, but I think you get the idea. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 points of separation for 5 dominoes. Let me rub this out. Now, we need to make sure that the adjacent faces, that means the faces next to each other, have the same number, which means this needs to be a 4, right? And this needs to be a 3. Also, whatever goes in this needs to be the same as this, and whatever goes in this needs to be the same as this. That is what we know. So we are looking for a 4, a 3, 2 things that are the same, and 2 more things that are the same, okay? So the easiest way to do a question like this is check out the diagram that they give you and think, what needs to go in the missing spots? What am I actually looking for when I check these answer options? Because you look at a bunch of dominoes, that can be kind of overwhelming, but now we know exactly what we're looking for. So first of all, we need a 4 and a 3. Let's check. Where do we have a 4 and a 3? Let's keep checking. So here is 1 4, but there's 2 3s here. That is not going to work. Next, here I've got a 4. Again, I've got 2 3s. That is not going to work because this 3 is not going to match with this 6. I've got a 4. I've got a 3. Okay, looking good so far. Do I have matching pairs? Let's check. I can make these a pair, and I can make these a pair. Fantastic. Option B looks great. Now, in reality, I don't actually know if I've color coordinated this correctly. It doesn't really matter. But the point is that we're just checking, do I have the matching pairs that I am looking for? And that is what gives you your answer. Beautiful. If we check option D just for a bit of extra fun, but again, you don't need to check this in the test. As long as you found your answer, you can keep going. If we check this, here's 4, here's 3 again twice. So I think you can already see the pattern. As soon as I keep seeing 3 twice, I'm having the same problem with everything except option B. So here's a little bit of a trick. Even if you were confused in the test and you get a question that you don't really know what to do with and you kind of want to give it a guess, but you don't know how to give it a good guess, just try to pick the odd one out, okay? Especially when you have questions like this with diagrams, they're asking you to pick between different diagrams. Pick the one that looks the most different to the others, and immediately that point to option B. Obviously, the ideal is that, you can actually work out every question, but if you're stuck for time, you're in a time crunch, you don't really know what to do, there's always this little strategy as well to help you in times of selective test need, okay? Now, on to 17. So, we've got this calendar over here that's divided into 6 seasons. Okay, now, my sister's birthday occurs in the season after my birthday. Okay, so we have to have my birthday first, and then the sister, and it occurs in the season after that, immediately after that. And it says our birthdays are almost 6 months apart. Okay, so first of all, which seasons are 6 months apart, and are next to each other? So January to June is 6 months. This definitely works. April to July is not 6 months. June to August, not 6 months. July to October, not 6 months. September to December, not 6 months. So it's going to be in here. That is what I know for sure. And remember, I'm only checking each 2 seasons in pairs. Why am I checking in each 2 seasons in pairs? Because I know that I have to have the next birthday in the next season. Also, I forgot to mention again, November to March here also is not going to work. Beautiful. Now, in which season is my sister's birthday? Remember, I need my birthday before my sister's, which means my birthday is going to be here and my sister's birthday is going to be here, which means what is my correct answer option? There you go, option B. So first thing, check 6-month gaps. That immediately gives you the 2 different seasons that you have to pick between, and then just check whose comes first. There you go. Question number 18. Some people think that being brave means not being afraid of anything, but this is wrong. A brave person is someone who does whatever they need to do, even if they do feel afraid. Interesting. So, what is this talking about? Remember, even if you personally agree or disagree with what has been put in the box, that doesn't actually make a difference in these questions. All you're doing is you're taking the information in the box as a fact, okay? And you're using that information to help you answer the rest of this. So, let's go through what each person says. Here's our first one. Simon is afraid of flying, but he got on the plane anyway because there was no other way to visit his grandparents. He must be a brave person. Does this work? Absolutely. He does whatever he needs to do, even if he feels afraid. He ticks off the exact criteria mentioned in that box. He is definitely a brave person, according to this definition. Okay, next. William says, actually, anyone who gets on an airplane must be brave. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Why is this wrong? Because it says you do whatever you need to do, even if you feel afraid, right? You do whatever you need to do. Do I know that there was no other option? No. In this first text, it specifically says there was no other way to visit his grandparents. If you're just choosing to go on an airplane because you love airplanes, and you're not just choosing it because you're afraid, but you still have to do it because there's nothing else to do, then you don't actually fit that definition. This does not qualify according to the above definition, which means what is my correct answer going to be? Option A. There you go. Oops, I nearly scrolled down too much. There you go. Here's number 19. Let's do this. James and 4 of his friends are all collecting from the same set of cards. The cards are sold in packs of 15 for $10 each, but the shop sells 3 of the packs for $25. James and his friends each have $20. They decide to put the money together and buy as many packs as possible. Okay, first of all, this is so misleading. I see so many people making silly mistakes with this. James and 4 of his friends. That means 5 friends total because James is actually counted. Everyone counts as a friend here. So 5 people total that we need to work with. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, they are collecting from the same set of cards. They are sold in packs of 15 for $10 each. So here's the one option. You can get 15 cards for $10, or you can get 3 of the packs, which means 15 times 3, 45 cards for $25. That is what we know. Now, they have $20 each, which means what is the total amount of money that the friends have? The friends. There are 5 friends, each has $20, That is a total of $100, right? 5 times 20 is 100. Now, they want to get the most number of cards possible. If each of these costs 25, I know that 25 times 4 is 100. So they can afford to get 45 times 4 cards. Now, how many is that? 5 times 4 is 20, 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18. They can afford to get 180 cards total. And of course, because they're each paying the same amount of money, they're going to share the cards equally. That is what the question says. So if I do 180 divided by 5, then you can pretty easily see what the answer is going to be without even writing this. But they each get 36 cards. Beautiful. Now, the question wants us to compare this with how much James could get by himself. James by himself only has $20. He's one of the friends, and just like each friend has $20, he also has $20. So he can times this by 2 for $20, times this by 2, 15 times 2 is 30 cards. By himself, he can only get 30 cards. But with his friends, he can get 36 cards for himself. So what's the difference? How many more cards does he get? 6 more cards. And therefore, what is my correct answer option here? Option B. There you go. So again, this looked really difficult, but the key with a question like this that just gives you a bit of an information overload because they give you so much info to sort out is, again, right, step by step. Okay, 15 cards, this much money. 45 cards, this much money. Make everything comparable. Don't compare cards and packs. Compare cards and cards or compare packs and packs. Makes it easier, right? In this case, I convert everything to cards because the question says how many more cards. So the thing that I actually care about is the number of cards, right? And once I've made this comparison, I'm using the amount of money available to the group and to each individual to answer it from there. Beautiful work. Alrighty. And another strengthening, weakening question. As you can see, these are quite popular in the selective test. So once again, I'm going to find a conclusion. I'm going to find a reason. Let's do it. So here it is. Conclusion and reason. So Leonie has just been listening to the radio. She says, the weather forecast said we are in for a very hot spell. I don't think it'll be as hot as last December though. Okay, so she's saying her conclusion is she doesn't think it'll be as hot as last December. Why? Last December was the hottest December ever. So it's unlikely to be as hot as it was then. Again, remember, the reason why we've actually highlighted the reason here, the point of this is that we need to actually make sure that we weaken the reason specifically, not just go against the argument, but specifically go against the conclusion and the reason. That's why I keep highlighting this. If you can remember this strategy, you're literally going to get all of these. You're going to get all of these right. They're pretty simple if you can keep the strategy in your mind. So, which one of the following most weakens the argument? We need to specifically contradict this idea that it's unlikely to be as hot as it was last December because last December was the hottest ever. Let's check. Option A says, the average temperatures in December have been rising steadily over the last 5 years. Okay, what does this actually mean? If they have been rising over the last 5 years, it means every December gets hotter. So you're going to have like a graph that just goes up and up and up and up and up, which means even though the last December was the hottest, it's going to keep going up. You still can have the next December being even hotter. Just because the last one was the hottest, it is no longer unlikely for it to be as hot. It breaks this. It says actually, according to the data that says it has been rising steadily for 5 years, it is actually very likely, not unlikely. Which means this definitely goes against the reason. Option A is looking fantastic. Next, it is difficult to make accurate long-term predictions about the weather. Well, here's the thing, right? What does this actually have to do with the reason in the text? Do we know whether this is a long-term prediction or not? First of all, we can definitely guarantee that it's within a year because she's talking, okay, last December, next December. So it's a 1 year time period at the very max. There is nothing to indicate here that this is a long-term prediction. We don't know whether she made this prediction on the 1st of December, for example, or if she made it on the last day of December the year before. We don't know that. So how can I assume that this is even relevant to the argument that the text is giving me? I can't assume it. It is not actually touching the specific reason that was given to me. This needs to go. Next up, let's keep checking. Temperatures are often even hotter in January than they are in December. Okay, what does it have to do with the argument? Again, the argument is comparing last December to this December. Where did January come even into the question? It never did, right? This is completely irrelevant. So this needs to go. Option D. Let's check this out. Weather forecasts in newspapers, online, and on TV are also predicting a very hot December. Okay, be careful. She says it's not going to be as hot as last December. She does not say, I don't think it'll be very hot. Whether December is very hot or not, again, isn't necessarily going against Leonie's argument. Her argument is not as hot as last December. It could still be hot, she's just saying it won't be as hot. So again, that's not really contradicting her necessarily. It could be, but I don't really have enough information to see how hot she thinks it's going to be, which means this is not my right answer either. So of course, I don't want to rub that out. Of course, option A has to be your correct answer here. Alrighty, let's keep it going. I'm seeing a pretty big paragraph over here. So once again, when you see a big paragraph like this, the idea is you try to extract the most important piece of information. Let's do it. A new system of tunnels has recently been built in the city of Rainville. It is used for car traffic and helps drivers get from one side of the city to the other in a short amount of time. However, when it is raining heavily, the tunnels are closed due to they're closed, to cars and instead function to carry excess rainwater from the city towards a nearby lake, and they prevent floods, okay? Otherwise, we're seeing here that the tunnels are open 24/7, 7 days a week. So, too much information. Let's really simplify this. There is a lot of fluff in half of these questions, guys. We just need to extract the important bits. What I know is that this is going to be open 24/7, except it is closed when it is raining. That is it. This whole paragraph summarized in a couple of words, okay? There you go, all of these pieces of information. Beautiful. Okay, now let's keep going. What am I seeing over here? We need to read two people's statements again and check it out. Does it match this piece of information? Now, Amelia says, my mother told me that she could not drive through the tunnels yesterday evening because they were closed. It must have been raining. Is this true? Absolutely. According to the text, there is no other exception, okay? This is the only exception, closed when it's raining, no other exceptions. So that means I definitely need to actually choose this as a correct statement. Next, Shang says, it's not raining right now, so the tunnels will be open to drivers. Again, absolutely true. Unless it's raining, they're open 24/7. That's the only time they're closed. So this definitely matches, and so both of them are correct. Beautiful. Next, Zig thinks of a 5-letter secret word. May tries to find out what the word is saying by 5-letter words. So she keeps guessing 5-letter words, basically. After each guess, Zig writes down 5 symbols that correspond to the letters of the guess. So plus means the letter is in the secret word in the same place. Let's go through the pluses. So I've got a plus in the second spot here and an L in the second spot, which means option B is already gone. Next, I have a plus over here in the first spot for C. So yes, these are obviously all a C. Next, I have 2 pluses here for E and A. So E, A, E, A, this is gone. I have to check, is the last letter an N or is it an R? And I can see here that hash means it is in the secret word, but in a different place. Well, hash over here is R. R is in the secret word. It has to be option D. It cannot be option C. And there you go. So again, don't actually check every piece of information. Just check the bits that are relevant to what you're looking for. Done. Next. Horses have eyes on the sides of their heads, which means they can see almost all around them at any time. We think they evolved this way because they are prey. They're prey animals, sorry. Predators hunt and eat them. And a wide field of view makes it harder for predators to sneak up on them. Okay, so it's saying horses evolved this way because they are prey. However, it is talking about horses. I do not know whether this is exactly true for every other animal, okay? I can't say that every animal that has eyes on the sides of their heads also has it for the same reason. This argument only talks about horses. I am not going to assume that it works for anything else. So what does Lana say? Lana says, chameleons, must be prey to because they also have eyes on the sides of their head. Here's the problem. Lana is taking the information that have actually come specifically for the argument of horses, no other animals. I don't know if it works with animals, and she's applying it to chameleons. There is no connection necessarily here. There might be a connection, there might not, but we don't know that there is. We don't know that this argument works for everything else. There could actually be other reasons as to why chameleons have eyes on the sides of their heads, okay? I don't know that this is the only reason. So let's go through. Which of the following sentences shows the mistake that Lana has made? There may be some prey animals that have very weak eyesight. Okay. Having weak eyesight has nothing to do with having eyes on the sides of your head. For example, I have weak eyesight, as you can tell by the fact that I wear glasses. I clearly do not have eyes on the side of my head, right? So I don't know where that connection came from, but that is not going to work. Next. There may also be reasons for non-prey animals to have eyes on the sides of their heads. Absolutely. Exactly. We don't know that only prey animals have their eyes on the sides of their head. We don't know that. Again, look at the key difference here. It says there may be also other reasons. It doesn't say, oh, there must be. It doesn't jump to assumptions. It doesn't jump to conclusions. It says, hey, this could be a possibility. Okay? C, there may be other ways horses evolved to avoid predators, like quick reaction times. Lana's statement is about chameleons. I don't know why we're talking about horses again, but whatever's happening to horses is not what's wrong with Lana's statement. Lana's statement is about chameleons, so that's not going to make any sense. Next. There may be predators that succeed in hunting horses despite their wide field of view. Again, why are we talking about horses when the whole point of the argument is to find the mistake in Lana's argument, which again is about chameleons? Not going to work. So what is my answer? It's going to be option B. Beautiful. Next. 4 friends are standing together. Aaron says, only one of us is saying something false. Bridget says, exactly 2 of us are saying something false. Caitlin says, exactly 3 of us are saying something false. David says, exactly 4 of us are saying something false. Which of the friends must be telling the truth? So this looks like a really hard question, but this is literally a 5-second question, okay? There's 4 people, okay? In other words, 1 person's going to be saying the truth, and 3 people are going to be lying. Who's going to be saying the truth? It says in the question, only 1 person's telling the truth, right? Who's going to be telling the truth? The person who's telling the truth has to be the one who says the other 3 people are lying. The question, remember, literally tells you which one must be telling the truth. So, 1 true, 3 false is what I'm looking for. Who is the person that says 3 people are saying something false? Caitlin literally says 3 people are saying something false. So, false, true, and false. Who is the person who's telling the truth? Gotta be Caitlin. There you go. The numbers have to match up. And that is how you very easily get this question. Alrighty, next up. 25. The sketch map below shows the locations of the 6 popular tourist attractions in Waterford and the distances between each location. Eleanor wanted to see as many of the attractions as possible, and she started from the cafe. So she's starting over here, and she managed to visit 4 of the other attractions before returning to the cafe. Okay, first of all, what am I noticing over here? Look at this, okay? With a question like this, it's very important to make little careful observations to actually figure out what immediately cannot work, because there's too many possibilities to check what does work. First, figure out what you have to eliminate and work from there. So, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. These are all 10 except 5 and 15. Here's the problem. I cannot reach this arch, okay? No matter which way I go, in order to get to a total of 50 kilometers, like this question says, oops, let me zoom it down so you can see it. As long as I need to actually add up to 50 kilometers, I have to add this 5 and this 15. I have to add these numbers together because 5 plus 5 is going to give me 10. That's going to end in a 0. If I choose this and I don't choose 5, I have a problem. If I choose 5 and I don't choose this, I have a problem. I can't actually add to 50. So, why is this not possible then? You might be thinking, okay, well, 5 and 15, I can just add those up. What's the problem? Well, here's the issue. To get to either of these points, you have to do 1, 2, 3 over here. So you've already seen 1, 2, 3 attractions. Okay, how am I going to get back with one more attraction and reach the cafe? Problem. Again, one attraction here, 2 attractions here, 3 attractions here. I only have space for one more attraction. How am I going to get back with one more attraction? In both cases, in every case actually, this here is the problem. This 15 kilometers is the problem. Now, the question says, which of the following attractions did Eleanor miss out? So I know it must be either the lake or the marina. Immediately, it has to be either the lake or the marina. Now, let's actually try and figure it out, okay? Let's test out the different ways of getting there. What can she do? She can go from the cafe. Tower is 1. Lake is 2. Then she can go aqueduct 3, right? She can go beach 4 and back to the cafe. Is that 50 kilometers? Yes, it is. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Beautiful. That actually works. In this case, she definitely can get to the lake. So the lake is looking good. Can she reach the marina in any way? Let's check. Well, she can go this way. 10, 20, 30, 40. That takes her back straight away. Okay, that's not going to work. Well, maybe you might be thinking, oh, let's try this. 10, 20, 30, 40. That doesn't work either. She can't go this way. She can't go back this way, or she repeats the same road. She gets to over 50. So the problem is she can never actually reach the marina, which means what is my correct answer? It's going to be option C. Now for this, you actually don't really need to test out all the answer options. The way to do this quickly without like me actually talking through it is you look at this diagram, you look at the fact that it has to add to 50, and you say to yourself, okay, it can't be this. That's the same thing that I said earlier. It can't be this. Now, as soon as you find a path that goes through the lake, tick, that works. Lake can happen. The one that can't happen is marina. Immediately, that's option C. So you don't need to test out all the options for marina. I was just testing them out to show you guys that it doesn't work. Okay, beautiful. That is 25 done. Next up is 26. Let's zoom in a little bit. The deadline to complete the geography homework was last Friday. Anyone who didn't complete it on time will have to stay behind after school tomorrow to finish it off. Okay, so if you didn't finish it on time, you have to stay after school. That is what we know. You have to. There is no exceptions according to this box. Let's check the answer options. Kalinda says, I know Abby didn't hand in the homework on time, so she'll definitely be staying behind tomorrow. Is this true? Absolutely. If you didn't hand in the homework, you've got to stay behind. Kira says, Lottie has to stay behind tomorrow, so she must have failed to complete the homework on time too. That's exactly what I was talking to you guys earlier in this video about, right? How just because A gives you B, that doesn't actually mean you can work backwards. I can't work backwards unless the question tells me to. So Kira's saying, oh, if you have to stay back, it must be because of this geography homework. But there could be a billion other reasons why you have to stay back. We don't know. Which means this doesn't work. For example, maybe she was, chewing gum in class. That could be a reason. There's so many possible options here, which means the only person's argument that makes sense here is Kalinda's. Beautiful. Next one. Elise has a set of letter cards, one for each letter of the alphabet. Cool. Each letter card is either red, blue, or green. Elise is using the letter cards to make words. She makes the words cat, dog, dot, bit, and bat, and notices that each of these words uses all 3 colors. Which of the following words could also use all 3 colors? Okay, guys, here's what I know. If I'm looking at one word, for example, cat, it doesn't really matter if I tell you, oh, this is red, this is blue, this is green. It doesn't actually make a difference. Why does it not make a difference? Because either way, I'm going to have all 3 colors in all 3 of these. So, in all of these words. So, no matter what I actually choose to be the red letter and the green letter and the blue letter, all of these choices are actually based off of my initial choice. So, you can choose any random combination here. You can say, oh, let's suppose, for example, that, C is red, and A is green, and T is blue. It really doesn't make a difference because all the rest you're actually basing off on this model, okay? So this isn't an assumption. I'm not saying that this is true. I'm just saying this is a model that helps me actually figure out what is happening in the rest of this question. So let's say that this is true, that I have this happening, okay? This is my model. Then what do I know? T is clearly blue. So this has blue, this has blue, this has blue, right? Also, C is red, okay? There's no other C's here. But I do know that A is green, so that would be the same thing here. Okay, remember, I have to have all 3 colors. That means B is also red. Red, red. If I go back to the answer options now, I know that I can't have C and B in the same word. Why? Because C and B are the same color. Again, it doesn't actually matter if they're both red in real life. I just know that C and B cannot go together. So obviously this answer option is gone. Next, let's now keep doing the same strategy. I can see here I have one missing spot, has to be green. So I is green. So that means A and I cannot go together because they are both green. Here's A and I, that cannot go together. Let's now keep actually checking this. What else do I know from these pieces of information? I know over here that I still have D and O left. So D and O, they have to make up over here red and green. I don't really care about whether D is green or red and then O is red or green. It doesn't really make a difference. I just know they have to be in that pattern, which means G has to also be blue so that these two can again be red or green. So once again, I can see here that T and G cannot go in the same pattern. So this also doesn't work. And therefore, what is my correct answer? Big. Big is the only one that's going to use all three colors because it doesn't have two letters of the same color. That's the idea. So once again, you can choose any random colors you want. It doesn't make a difference. All we're doing is we're checking what has to be the same color. I can't guarantee you that these two are both red, but what I can guarantee you is that they are the same color regardless of what that color is. Got it? So that is why we end up getting option B for this question. Beautiful. Okay, question number 28. 4 students take tests in English, math, science, history, and geography. Their scores are shown in the table. The graph, when correctly labeled, represents the scores of one of the students. Which student has the results shown in the graph? Okay, guys, in general, when you see a question like this that has to do with some sort of bar chart or line graph or whatever type of data representation the question chooses, there are generally 2 things that I'm looking for, okay? First of all, I'm looking for any really large or really small numbers. What's the biggest, what's the smallest amount? Also, what I'm looking for is any patterns. Are there any numbers, for example, that are the same? Or are there any numbers that are very similar in these charts? So for example, let's have a look. I can clearly see here that science and geography have the same amount. So science and geography here are the same. Here they are not the same, so it's not briny. Okay, here they are the same, and here they're the same. I've already eliminated one person. Also, I can clearly see over here that history is the smallest. History here is the smallest. History here is bigger than science and geography, so that doesn't work. History here, again, we've already crossed out briny, so we don't care. And history here is the smallest. Now, we have to choose between Andrew and Daisy. We've already crossed these 2 people out. We have to choose between Andrew and Daisy. How can I possibly do that? Well, I can clearly see that the patterns are the same. For example, English over here is less than maths. But what I can see is the relative percentage differences, okay? The general percentage differences, okay? What I notice is that over here, the difference between, for example, between science and geography compared to history is much bigger with Daisy compared to science and geography and history with Andrew. So I can see that Daisy actually has a bigger difference. And if I have a look here on my diagram that is given to me, this is a pretty significant difference. If you compare this difference over here in similar size to this, you should see that that difference should be relatively big, right? Which means Daisy's difference is better than Andrew's. Andrew's is only 4%, so not really going to work. And therefore, who's my correct student? Whose results are actually being shown in this graph? It's going to be Daisy. That is option D. Beautiful. Alrighty. Next up, Chris and Lily were both setting up dog walking services at their local areas. And they both discovered these facts, okay? The more people who know about our services, the more people are likely to use them. If no one knows about them, no one will use them. If we put leaflets in people's houses, then more people will know about them. Okay, so this is a bit of a chain reaction. You put leaflets in people's houses, more people know about them, more people are likely to use them, right? Again, though, remember, I don't know anything about the reverse. It's the same thing I've been saying this whole time. You know something about the forward direction, you don't know if it works backwards. That's the problem. So, let's check out each person's statement. Okay, Rosie says, lots of people have started using Lily's service recently. She must have been out leafletting houses. Problem, okay? And that problem here is modality. So if you haven't heard of the word modality here, Yet, listen up closely, it is a very important word in thinking skills. Modality is basically talking about the strength of your statement. How certain a statement that you make is. So, for example, if I say, you must eat your vegetables with your dinner, that is a high modality statement. I'm 100% certain with what I'm saying. I'm using the word must. It's like a command. Whereas if I just tell you, oh, maybe you can eat your vegetables during dinner, that'd be very nice. Well, the problem there is that is not a very certain statement. I'm not forcing you to eat your vegetables. So that is actually a low modality statement. Okay, words like could, can, maybe, these are all low modality words, whereas words like must and have to, these are high modality words. So what is Rosie doing over here? Rosie's saying she must have been out leafletting houses. That is high modality. She's saying this is what must have happened. This is 100% guaranteed to have happened. There is no other option. Guys, remember, this is not necessarily true. Sure, this could have been one reason why people are actually using the service. But again, I cannot actually go backwards. What I do know is that leafletting eventually leads to more people using it. But I don't know if this arrow works backwards. It's the same issue. Okay? It might work backwards, but it doesn't actually make it guaranteed to be true. So the problem here is must. If she had said, oh, maybe it's because she's been leafletting houses, I would say, yes, this is a good statement, that works. But because she says must have, it's a problem. This needs to go. Okay? Not gonna work. Next, let's check Ryan's statement. Ryan says, and no one has been using Chris's service, so he can't have been posting any leaflets at all. Well, what do we think about this statement over here? Let's again think about this very, very, very carefully. Can I work backwards over here with this statement? Well, it says over here that if no one knows about them, no one will use them. So if no one knows, no one uses. Once again, like I've said for a billion times today, and I'm sure you guys are sick of me saying this, I cannot necessarily go backwards. I don't know if this works backwards. So this is saying, oh, no one's using the services. That means no one knows about them. You haven't actually put up any leaflets. That might not be the reason why. It could be, but it might not. I don't know if it works backwards. Same issue, Ryan is gone, which means actually option D is my correct answer. Neither Rosie or Ryan are actually correct in this case. Okay. Oh my goodness, yet another strengthening weakening question. And again, it's a weakening one. So let's try it out. As I said, these questions could come up with strengthening, but in this case, they've all been weakening today in this test. Beautiful. So you guys already know the drill. I'm going to look for the conclusion. I'm going to look for the reason, and we are going to solve it that way. Let's go. Conclusion, I'm going to do it in pink, and reason, I'll be doing it in green. I hope I've been consistent with the colors. Anyways, Daniela says, did you know that the top tennis players can serve the ball at over 220 kilometers per hour? That means the other player has less than 0.25 seconds to see where the ball is and then hit it. This would be simply impossible for a normal human being. I'm telling you, some sports people must have superhuman reaction times. So, her argument is, this is her conclusion, that some sports people have superhuman reaction times. Now, why does she think this? Why does she think that they have superhuman reaction times? Well, she says that actually you only have 0.25 seconds to see where the ball is and hit it, which means it is impossible for a normal human being. Now, once again, weaken the argument, right? Weaken the argument, which means use the same reason that was given in the text to weaken it. You've got to actually take this reason and tear it apart, okay? So here are my answer options. Let's test them out. A, tennis players learn to anticipate where a serve is going to go before it is hit. Does this make sense? Absolutely. Because what the text says is that you only have less than 0.25 seconds to react, right? But this is actually saying, you actually have more time than this because you actually anticipate where it's going to go. I mean, I don't personally know much about tennis. Maybe you guys know more about tennis than me. But I'm assuming, or I'm not assuming, but I'm saying in general that if you're holding the tennis racket a certain way, right? Or if you're standing a certain way, maybe your opponent actually knows what type of serve or what type of shot you're going to do and where that shot is going to end up. So again, we're not going to actually assume specifically what type of shot they're doing, because remember, no assumption thinking skills. What I am arguing over here is that there are multiple different ways that one person might be able to predict how this happens. So there are different ways for which someone could anticipate where a serve is going to go. And if you can anticipate it, that means you do not just have 0.25 seconds to react, you actually have more. And if you have more than these seconds, that means your reaction time could just be normal. You're not going to have a superhuman reaction time. It could just be a normal reaction time. So this definitely works. Beautiful. B. Only a few tennis players can serve the ball at speeds over 220 kilometers per hour. Okay, even if it is a few people, then Daniela's argument still works. She doesn't say, oh, it's every single tennis player serves at this speed. She says the top tennis players. So even if it's very few, the people that are able to play those very, very, very few would still have superhuman reaction times. So again, not really going to work here. Next, there is quite a range of times within what is usually considered a normal reaction time. Alrighty, I can see why this might be misleading for some people, but here's why this doesn't work, okay? It says over here there's a range of times, alrighty. Does it ever say that this 0.25 falls within that range? Whether there is a range or not, that has nothing to do with the fact that this number here may or may not fall within that range, okay? So unless it actually gives you a number and it says actually the 0.25 is in that range, then how's that going to help? And let's look at the last one. Reaction times in most sports are typically more than 0.25 seconds. Okay, even if in most sports they are more than 0.25 seconds, according to Daniela, in tennis, it's less than 0.25 seconds. And remember, she doesn't say all sports people, she says some sports people. So it doesn't have to be true for everyone, it doesn't have to be true for most, it just has to be true for some for Daniela's argument to make sense. So this actually supports Daniela's argument. It doesn't really do much actually, so that is not going to work. And so therefore, I get option A, like we said earlier. Beautiful. Let's keep it going on to question 31. An amusement park opens at 8 a.m. and closes at 3 p.m. Tickets must be bought in advance, and each ticket gives access to the park for one visitor from a chosen start time. They are valid for a maximum of 3 hours, and they can use them for any time in those 3 hours. Beautiful. Now, what is the greatest number of visitors that could have been at the amusement park at 12:30? Well, let's have a think about this, right? If you actually have a ticket for 8 a.m., right? If you have a ticket for 8 a.m., you can only use it for 3 hours. So you can use it until 9, 10, 11 a.m. That's it. You're not going to still be using it at 12:30. You have a ticket for 9 a.m., you can use it until 12, not until 12:30. These people are not going to be counted. If you have a ticket till 10, it is still valid till 1, so you could still be there at 12:30. And again, it's not guaranteed that you're there, but remember, the question says what is the greatest number of visitors. So the question is saying, basically, if everyone stayed for the maximum 3-hour duration, what is the number of visitors? That's what it's asking for, okay? 11 a.m. If you start at 11 a.m., what does that mean? You're going to be done by, again, 3 hours later. That's 2 p.m. That's still fine. By 12, again, that's still fine. If you start at 1 p.m., you want there at 12:30. That is not going to work. And same issue over here. So my greatest number of visitors is 42 plus 29 plus 31. And if I add up all these numbers, what do I get? I get 42 plus 60, which is 102. And that is why my answer over here is option B. Beautiful. Again, this works because it says greatest number. It might actually be less than this, but this is the greatest number because some people could have left early, but this is the greatest. Okay, so that's why we are going with this answer option. Nice. 32. Ellen is on board a ship from which she can see a lighthouse. The lighthouse transmits messages to ships by flashing 3 colored lights in different orders. Ellen knows the possible messages are as follows. Now, the lighthouse flashes a message, but later Ellen only manages to remember 2 of the colors. She doesn't actually remember the order. One of the colors is red. So she remembers red and she remembers some sort of mystery color that we do not know. And it says that this allows her to work out which message has been conveyed. So in other words, these 2 colors alone should be enough to differentiate between all the answer options. First of all, I need to choose something that has red. Here's red, here's red, here's red. There is no red here. This is gone. It can't be this, right? So it must have red. Now, the other mystery color plus red needs to be able to differentiate from everything else. So let's test out a couple different options. If, for example, the mystery color is yellow, this has red and yellow, but so does this, and so does this. That doesn't help us differentiate. Not going to work. If the mystery color is green, this has red and green, but this also has red and green. That doesn't actually help us differentiate. If the mystery color is blue, this is the only one that has red and blue. Nothing else has red and blue, which means what is the message? Storm incoming. Storm incoming has to be the correct message here because it's the only one that differentiates. It doesn't have anything else in common with the others. Beautiful. Let's keep it going. 33. A constellation is a group of stars in the night sky, often in the shape of an animal or another recognizable object. In ancient times, sailors used the positions of the constellations to navigate on the open seas. Okay, so it's saying sailors use this to navigate. Again, they could have used it for other things, or they could have also used other things to navigate. We don't actually know anything about that. This is the only information that I know. I'm not going to make assumptions about anything else. So now let's look at what Amir says. Amir says that must mean, again, high modality, like I told you guys earlier, so I can already see this is going to be a bit of a problem. This must mean that the sailors had to hope they had clear skies at night, otherwise they'd be certain to get lost. Here's the problem. Again, we actually do not know whether this is the only method. There could be multiple methods. Sure, we know that this is definitely one method, but there could be other methods. So just because you have this technique available to you with constellations, which you can see, right, if you have a clear sky, that doesn't actually necessarily mean that there's nothing else that you can do. For example, if you can't do the constellations, there might have been something else to help them, okay? I cannot just assume that there is no other methods, okay? So let's now go through the answer options. A, even if the skies are clear, it might not be possible to see all the constellations. Well, if we go back up to the answer options, right? Be careful. It says the sailors used the positions of the constellations to navigate. It doesn't actually say that they need to see them, right? It doesn't actually say, oh, I have to see these constellations. It just says I have to know the positions. I don't know how they know the positions of the constellations, but I just know they have to know the positions somehow, right? So this, whether the sky is being clear or not, isn't even the only problem. It's actually completely irrelevant to us because the actual box doesn't specify you need clear skies or clear skies are not needed. It doesn't actually specify that ever. So this cannot be my right answer option because this is an assumption once again. Okay, this is just something that Amir said to confuse us. So I think this is a very, very, very tricky one. It's a trap right there. Next, it may have been even more likely to have clear skies in ancient times. Again, what does it have to do with it? Right? What does it have to do with it? What do clear skies even have to do with actually having a look at whether the ship can go somewhere and sail or not? All I know is I care about the positions of the constellations. I cannot assume that I need clear skies to see these positions. I don't know anything about sailing, okay? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know nothing about sailing. I don't know whether you need clear skies or not. And even if it's true in real life, I'm still not going to assume it in this. So, not going to work. Okay, C. It may be that ancient sailors had other methods of navigation. Perfect. And again, it says it may be. It doesn't actually guarantee it. This is low modality. I don't know for sure if they had other methods. I'm saying it could be a possibility. Last one. Ancient sailors may have had other reasons to observe stars. Yes, that is true, but that is not the problem with Amir's sentence. Amir is saying they're actually sailing over here, right, so that they don't get lost. He's addressing the issue of getting lost. So them having other reasons to observe the stars could be true, but that doesn't actually have to do anything. Sorry, I can't speak. Speaking too much. I'm saying that doesn't actually necessarily have anything to do with the fact of whether they're going to get lost or not. So that is why option C is your better answer here. Beautiful. We are nearly there, guys. Question 34. Let's keep going. The diagram below shows the top view and the two side views of a solid cube with a thick black wire attached to it. Which cube does it represent? Okay, let's actually check a couple different views. So I'm going to start over here with this side view because I can see this thick line in the middle. That's probably the easiest one to work with. So let's start with that. I can see, for example, again, as I said, that thick line. Thick line, thick line. Nope, that does not work. And thick line, beautiful. I can see over here also, boom, boom, these two little bits on each top and bottom. So here's that and that works. Here's that and that works. Here's that and that also works. And I can also see I need this over here. Oops, let me switch colors. This little extra bit on the side. Well, clearly I do not have that here. I do have that here. And this is too long. It should only go to halfway up the box. So, by a very easy process of elimination, immediately I get option C for this question. Beautiful. And I actually never even needed any of these. Very nice. And the reason I picked this is because it had the easiest piece of information to read. You could technically go ahead and do it with the other ones, but I think this is the easiest. Okay. Question 35. Anita finds a story written in the ancient language of Gileric. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She wants to have the story translated into English so that she can read it. Unfortunately, Anita cannot find a translator who can translate from Gileric into English. However, she does know that some translators can translate between different languages as shown in this table. But Anita cannot still see a way that the story can be translated into English, even by having it translated more than once. We need an extra translator to make this possible. Guys, the easiest way to do this is to work backwards. Okay, you need to work backwards. Okay, so for example, I know that eventually I need to get to Gileric. So I'm going to start with Gileric over here. I'm going to use Kiara, who can go from Gileric to Hindi. Who's the next person who can use Hindi? There you go. Hindi to Italian. Who is the next person that can use Italian? No. No one can use Italian, which means the person that I'm looking for has to use Italian. So let's test out options A and D. Now, let's test out Peter. From Italian, I'm going to go to Vietnamese. Okay, and from Vietnamese, I can use Diego to translate to Spanish. Can I somehow get from Spanish to English? Yes, I can. Spanish to English, that checks out. So this definitely works. Eventually, it gets me to English. If you want, you can definitely check the other answer options, but you don't need to. But let's go through them anyway while we're here just to show you guys how this works. Okay, if I look at option D, for example, if instead I go from Italian to, let me pick a different color. If I go from Italian to Punjabi, then if I have a look at Punjabi here, either I go to Greek or Wiradjuri, right? Well, if I go to Greek, I can't get to English anyway according to this table. If I go to Wiradjuri, I can only get to this. Again, I cannot get to English in any way. So that is not going to work. You can, again, test out the others, but you don't need to. First of all, again, the problem here is definitely not going to be solved by option C because it doesn't solve the Italian issue. If you want, you can check option B because it has Gileric again, but you can see the same issue. Sure, I can go from Gileric directly to Greek, but from Greek, I can't really go anywhere, which means that's not going to work either. So it has to be option A, but as I said, as soon as you get it, you can pretty much move on to the next one. Beautiful. Next up is 36. Sally is planning to organize a street party. However, the people on her street are often very busy. Unless she's able to get her invitations printed out and posted in good time, then very few people will come to the party. Alright. Now, again, let's go through each piece of information. Joy says, if there aren't many people at the party, we'll know Sally didn't post her invitations on time. Once again, I think you guys already know what I'm going to say. This is not guaranteed. What I do know is that unless she's able to get them printed out, then very few people will come. So, if she does not print out, there will be very few people. However, once again, for the billionth time in this video, I know you guys are sick of me saying it, I cannot assume that this works backwards. Just because there are very few people, that doesn't mean she didn't post the invitations. It might have been actually something else. It might have been, I don't know, maybe people just didn't want to go to the party. We don't know. That doesn't work. Samira, If there are a lot of people at the party, we'll know that she did post her invitations. Does this work? Does this work? Absolutely. This is actually a classic example of what we call the contrapositive. Okay, this is a very important concept to know in thinking skills. So remember how I told you guys earlier, I can say A implies B. I can't necessarily say that this is true. But here's what is always true. Not B always gives you not A. And this statement here, not B gives you not A, is called the contrapositive. So what you do to get the equivalent statement of something, you take your original statement, which let's say is this, you flip it around, and then you put the word not in front of everything. So you make it not B, not A. We call this process, the way I like to think of this is I call it flip and negate. Flip and make it a negative. Add the word not, okay? So why does this work, you might be thinking? Well, think about this logically. I'm going to give you a very, very, very simple example. And I like to call this the postman example. This is the example I always use, right? The idea is that, here's my example. If the postman rings the doorbell, then I will go open the door. And in this example, I live alone. There is no one else that can go open the door. I'm the only person that lives in this house, okay? No one else can go open the door. This is my original statement. If I flip it around, does it make sense? Let's try flipping it. If I go open the door, then the postman rings the doorbell. That does not make any sense. I could go open the door to step out of my house. I could go open the door to go drive somewhere. I could go open the door to go water my garden. Okay, there are so many different reasons why I might open my door. It's not necessarily because of the postman. So as you can see, flipping it around does not make it true. But here's what does make it true. If I take this statement, I'm going to put it up here so that I have a bit more space to work. And I flip the order and I say, if, okay, I'm going to flip it around. If I go open the door, then the postman rings the doorbell. And I have to actually add the word not, okay? So if I do not go open the door, then the postman does not ring the doorbell. Does this make sense? If I don't go open the door, then the postman doesn't ring the doorbell. That makes perfect sense. Because remember, I said I live alone in this question. And I also said that there is actually no other reason for me to go open the door, okay? If I don't open the door, there is no reason for me to open the door, which means the postman is not there. There you go. So as you can see, flipping and negating works. And this is called the contrapositive. So in this specific example, in this question, we were given this. We were given the fact that, and I'll move this to the side actually. We were given the fact that if you do not print and post in time, very few people will come. Let's flip it. Very few people will come if you do not print and post. And then I'm going to add the word not. So, not very few. That means many people will come. And then not print and post just means print and post. So, in other words, if there are many people at the party, then we have to know that she did in fact print and post on time, which is exactly what Samira says. So that is the contrapositive. Now, I just gave you a very, very long, thorough explanation of the contrapositive. You actually don't have to do this in the test. As soon as you know what the contrapositive is, boom, flip, negate, you have your right answer. Very simple. But it's good to know where it actually comes from so it actually makes sense logically in your head as well. Okay, so as you can see, Joy's statement is wrong, Samira's statement is correct. That is option B. Beautiful. Nearly there, guys. Let's do it. 37. I'm sorry, this video is very long. In a competition, children complete a course which involves swimming, then cycling, then running. A team of 3 children is chosen to take, yes, we've got 1 child will swim, 1 child will cycle, 1 child will run. The team will consist of the fastest swimmer, the fastest cyclist, and the fastest runner. Remember, if you are very, very, very fast, that means you have a very, very, very low time, okay? If it takes me 5 seconds to do something, it takes you 10 seconds, that means I'm faster than you because it takes me less time to do it. So I'm looking for the lowest score in each, the lowest time, I should say. So in swimming, if we have a look, it looks like 5.6 is the smallest. In cycling, if we have a look, looks like 24.1 is the smallest. And in running, I am seeing 12.0 is the smallest. So let's now add it up. It says, assuming that all the children complete their part at the same time, what will be the total time? Add them up. Easy. We're going to get 5.6, 24.1, 12.0. You can immediately see this ends in a 7 because 6 and 1 and 0 is 7. Boom. This is the only answer that ends in a 7. So you actually don't need to do this whole calculation. You don't have to actually sit there and add numbers. Do not waste your time doing things that are not necessary. As soon as I can see the last digit and it gives it away, I'm done. That's my answer option. There you go. Beautiful. Next up. Trisha is trying to decode a secret message from her friend Brianna. She does not know the code, so she has to try guess what it might be. The coded message reads this. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the coded message. Now, here's what Trisha says. I think that the first word of the message might be the. But that would mean that the letter E only appears once in the message. Why does she say that? Because, as you can see, B here, she thinks is going to translate to E and then only appears once. Which would be unusual because E is a very common letter. So that is indeed a fact. E is indeed the most common letter in the English alphabet. But let's actually break this down. Does the question tell you what type of code this is? Nope. What Trish is doing is she's actually assuming that this is a substitution cipher, right? Which basically just means she's assuming that you take a letter, let's say you write your alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, 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 and you translate it to a certain number of letters forward. So maybe A goes to C, and then this goes to D, E, blah, 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 right? She's saying that because B only appears once, and she thinks that this is the, then E only appears once. But wait a second. What if there's different ways of me to actually get E? There is nothing in the question that guarantees this is the correct type of code that has been used. There could be a different code where E actually becomes a different letter each time. And yes, in reality, there's tons of different codes where this is true, okay? So I can't just assume that the correct code is actually the one that just only translates E to this, okay? It might actually translate E to a different letter each time. So, where is Trisha's mistake? Let's have a look. The first word of the original message might not actually be the. Okay, the actual problem here is Trisha's mistake in her argument. We're looking for what is the argument flaw in this, okay? Her actually just guessing that it's the might not be the wrong thing because she doesn't actually tell us why she thinks this. She might have a perfectly valid reason. She might have a horrible reason. But we don't actually know her reasoning behind this. So we can't just say, oh, this is actually the problem with it, because we don't know whether this is the problem with it or not. Next, Brianna's message might only contain one letter E, even if that is unusual. Okay? Again, she doesn't actually say that that's a problem. She says, okay, yeah, that would be unusual, but that's not necessarily the issue. Whether it's usual or unusual, that isn't the issue. The issue is she is assuming that E only appears once, when there is actually no evidence to suggest that E only appears once. She's assuming this, okay? She's making this assumption. So, while this would be unusual, this is not the assumption that she's making, so that's why it's not the issue. C, the code might contain numbers and other symbols, not just letters. Well, we obviously know that that is not the case. Why do you know that that is not the case? Because as you can see over here, this is the code. The code doesn't actually have numbers and other symbols. Like the coded message is literally just this. So there is that. And if we have a look at option D now, the letters in the message might not always be represented by the same letters in the code. That is exactly it. E might not always necessarily go to B. And that is exactly what I'm talking about over here. Beautiful. Nearly there. Second last question. Let's do this. The girls' five-a-side soccer team includes 2 pairs of sisters. Whenever they have a photo taken, they always make sure that no girl is standing next to her sister. Now, here's the order of them in different photos. Which pair must be sisters? Remember, it says must, okay? So, let me actually write down the people's names. We've got J, A, M, S, and K, okay? And so, I'm now going to actually test out how they might be sisters. So let me write them down here. And I'm going to say this is the person that I'm testing, and I'm going to match each person to their sister. Remember, what's actually happening in reality is I have 2 sets of sisters, so 4 siblings, 2 and 2, and then 1 person who's just not related. So I'm going to say possible sister because it might not be guaranteed. Let's check Janali. Janali cannot be Alinta's sister because they're next to each other, right, over here. And I also know that Janali cannot be Kilara or Medika's sister. So Alinta's already gone. The only people that are left is actually Shakira. So one possible sister is Shakira. Let's keep checking. Next person I have to check is an Alinta. So Alinta cannot have Janali or Medika as her sister. Alinta can also not have Kilara. So she could also have Shakira as her sister. Interesting. Well, in reality, they can't all 3 be sisters. So one of them has to be the one that doesn't have a sister. Let's keep checking. Next person I have to check is Medika. So Medika cannot be next to Alinta or Shakira as sisters. They can't be sisters, right? And Medika can also not have Janali or Shakira. So the only sister that Medika can actually have is Kilara. Alrighty. Sorry if you guys can hear the rain outside. It's very rainy right now. Anyways, next up, we have over here, the letter S. Oops, Shakira. Let's check Shakira. Shakira cannot have Medika as a sister or Kilara. And Shakira, again, cannot have Medika. So as you can see, Shakira, there's not really enough info to say who can be her sister. There's so many different possibilities. It could be J, it could be A. Last, Kilara. Let's check Kilara. Kilara cannot have Shakira, cannot have Janali, cannot have Alinta. It has to be Medika. Which set matches? The only set that matches is M and K. That is it. The others do not actually guarantee who goes with who, which means, what is my correct answer option over here? M and K, K and M, it's going to be option D. That is the only one that is guaranteed. They must be sisters. Once again, high modality is what you're looking for over here. Okay? And now, we are up to our very last question. And I think this one's quite tricky. So let's break this down. This diagram shows a view of 3 dice labeled X, Y, and Z placed together in a row. They are standard dice with pairs of opposite faces adding up to 7. Okay, it's quite nice they gave you this in this question. I mean, look, obviously, you never know whether they might give this to you in future selective tests. So if you are someone who's studying for the selective test in future, it's good to know that the opposite sides of a dice, they always add up to 7. So for example, what I mean is that if this is 6, the bottom must be 1, so that they add up to 7. Okay? Now, all 3 of the dice are identical. They're all the same. What is the sum of the 2 hidden faces of dice X and dice Y that are touching each other face to face? So in other words, if I actually draw them as separate dice, this is not going to be a very nice drawing, but I think you get the point. Something like this. Right? Oh, that's horrible. Let me try again. Boom. This is not a good drawing. Give me a sec. Boom, 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 boom. There you go. Here's one dice. I'm going to say this is dice X. And I'm going to draw another one. Boom, 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 boom. This is dice Y. What I care about is this face of dice X and this face on the side here of dice Y that is hidden, because they are touching each other over here. They are touching each other over there. Okay? Now, we want the sum of the 2 hidden faces that are touching each other face to face. So let's try to work out the sum. First of all, the possible numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for X, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Y, because it's the same for all dice. They're identical. What I know is this. This is a 6. So 6 is not a possible number over here. This is a 2. This is not a possible number. What must be opposite 6? At the bottom, I must have the number 1. And then at the very back, opposite 2 must be the number 5, because 5 plus 2 is 7. So this face over here can be 3 or 4. Beautiful. Now, next, let's do a very similar process with dice Y. This is a 6. This at the bottom must be a 1. So 6 and 1 are gone. This at the front is a 3, which means this at the very back must be a 4, because 3 plus 4 is 7. So the 2 options that I have for this are 2 or 5. Now I have to actually check what is the correct option. So let's use dice Z to help us. Remember, these dice are all identical, so I can use Z to help us out. What I do know over here, if I look at Z, is that 2 and 3 are actually right next to each other. Okay? 2 and 3 are right next to each other. If I actually just rotate the dice Z this way, I rotate it anti-clockwise, then I get dice x. Right? If I just rotate it this way, 2 will go like this, and that means 3 must be on this side, which means this is 3, and then this must therefore be 4. That side over there has to be 4, it cannot be 3. Now let's try to do a similar process for dice y. What do I know about dice y? Let's try to use that same rotation, okay? As I said, if I actually say that this is 3, right, this side over here at the back is 3, if I rotate now, imagine it rotating this way. Now it's a bit hard to imagine, but try rotating this way, rotating into the page. That will actually bring 3 to the front, okay? And then that will actually rotate 6 this way. Then if I rotate 3 that way, right, and I actually get this figure, that means 2 is going to be on this side. If 3, who was on the side originally, or that was on the side originally, goes forwards, that means 2 that was on the front originally must go sideways. So this must be 2, which means this middle bit must be 5. That's gone. So my correct numbers are 4 plus 5. What is the sum of these numbers? 4 plus 5 is 9, and therefore 9 is your correct answer. So I think that was quite a tricky question. There was a lot to do with that, but that is the whole selective test done. Give yourselves a clap. So thank you all so much for watching. That was, I know, a very, very long video, but I hope everyone learned something new. Please let us know if you actually learned a lot from this video. If you found it useful, give it a big thumbs up. And yeah, it was lovely to meet you all. Make sure you sign up for some more Scholarly classes to get more tutorials like this. And I hope to see you all again very, very, very soon. Amazing.